We have a shocking New York Knicks trade update as a report from Knicks insider James Edwards has revealed the Knicks could be targeting Simone Fontecchio via trade, with a report that's revealed wild details on trades the Knicks might make. And focusing on Fontecchio, this could as well lead to Tyler Kolek getting some minutes this season as one of the Knicks' premier backup guards. And we're going to break it all down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here. And if you guys like the content, make sure to subscribe. It helps us out a ton. 27% of viewers are subscribed. Let's get those numbers up. Let's get to 11K and beyond. More importantly, let's talk about the New York Knicks, baby. It's Knicks time, it's trade season, and Simone Fontecchio has become a name that the New York Knicks fans are now aware of because Leon Rose could be targeting him, according to James Edwards, who proposed a trade that I absolutely love. I think it would be a wonderful trade, and we're going to get right into it. There's no reason for me to dance around it and waste your guys' time. You guys want to see the trade. I want to talk about the trade. Let's look at it. The New York Knicks would be acquiring Simone Fontecchio, while the Detroit Pistons acquire Cameron Payne from the Knicks and Bruce Brown from the Toronto Raptors, bringing Bruce Brown full circle back to the Detroit Pistons, as well as the Knicks sending Precious Achiuwa back to the Toronto Raptors, giving the Raptors a second-round pick, while the Pistons give them 2 second-rounders. Now, James Edwards is the one who made this trade. Here's the deal. He didn't specify the second-rounders. I do imagine that the Pistons would be trading the Raptors their own second back. Meanwhile, the New York Knicks, I picked the Warriors second-rounder in 2026 just because the Knicks have 20 million second-round picks. And, well, that one seemed fun. But, look, it's also unprotected, which is a huge part of it. I don't think the Raptors would be acquiring protected second-rounders. They're very good at not getting those, as well as Bruce Brown still holding value. Even if the Raptors did clearly hold on to him for too long, they'd still get an all-right haul for him. Now, I love this trade for the Knicks. I like Precious Achiuwa a lot, and I don't want to see the Knicks trade him. I just don't think he's going to re-sign in the offseason, so it would make sense to move him. Also, he's got that $6 million tradable contract on an expiring deal. It's easy to move that. We're definitely going to talk about some more deals involving Precious Achiuwa in the near future, so stay ready for that. That'll definitely happen. As well as the Detroit Pistons here. Like, obviously, it's Knicks Digest. We're going to talk about the Knicks side of this the most. That's why I'm just talking about the Raptors and the Pistons really quickly. I think this is a good trade for the Pistons. They could use Cameron Payne's shooting because Fontecchio has been a little not great shooting ever since his foot surgery. Meanwhile, Bruce Brown is a good player. He helps teams win. The Raptors are absolutely terrible this season. They have 7-8 wins on the year. Meanwhile, we're looking at the Pistons, who now have a winning record in basketball, so good for the Pistons. Obviously, having MVP candidate Tobias Harris there is what's led to that and absolutely nothing else. But in all seriousness, the Pistons are just good. They're just a good team now. They're not bad. They're not great. But they're all right. They're a playing team. Good for the Pistons. They're finally on the up and up. A lot of that is because of Cade Cunningham being great, but the young players are just kind of developing. They've brought in some veterans, and bringing in Brown gives them another veteran. Meanwhile, the New York Knicks side of this, they get Simone Fontecchio, a fairly young forward wing who would absolutely help the Knicks bench scoring pretty much instantly. Now, James Edwards did give his insight into this, and we got to talk about his insight as this was his trade proposal. As he mentioned, last year, the 29-year-old knocked down 40% of his threes on 5.1 attempts per game between the Utah Jazz and the Detroit Pistons while being a solid defender. However, after undergoing foot surgery last summer, Fontecchio struggled to find consistency this year. The three-point shooting efficiency has slipped, but I tend to believe that good shooters will always figure it out, something I agree with Edwards on. He competes defensively, and when needed, he doesn't mind getting in the trenches for a rebound. His season hasn't gone like many in Detroit have anticipated, but it doesn't mean he's a lost cause. Fontecchio basically has no offseason at all to prepare. I think he'd slot in nicely alongside either Jalen Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns for the Knicks when head coach Tom Thibodeau starts to trickle the bench into games. And I'm going to agree heavily with Edwards here. I think he's absolutely right. Now, Fontecchio, yeah, the season has definitely been a down one compared to what we've seen from in the past. 7 points per game, 3 rebounds, shooting 41% from the field and 35% from three. He's a catch-and-shoot three-point shooter. He shoots most of his shots from behind the arc, only shooting 23% on corner threes. I think a guy like this, when you're such a good shooter, I think a change of scenery is absolutely what you need. The guy could shoot 40+% from three. Getting on a team with the New York Knicks, which have way better shooting than the Pistons. Something that is a problem with the Detroit Pistons is the fact I knew Leon Rose was going to pop up there. Something that's a problem with the Detroit Pistons is the fact that they don't have great shooting. The shooting's obviously well improved. Having Malik Beasley's huge, but it's not great. Great shooters always benefit from being on great shooting teams because you get focused on less. Fontecchio would come to the Knicks where there'd be a lot less pressure on him to be the three-point shooter. The Knicks have a ton of great three-point shooting, whether it's Karl-Anthony Towns shooting 45% from three, Jalen Brunson being Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, who's just insane in the corner. OG is a great three-point shooter. You still, even though you trade away Cameron Payne, who is a 40% three-point shooter, you still have another one who shoots 40% in Deuce McBride. You have shooters on this Knicks roster. The Knicks wanted a 5-out team, and they absolutely got one. I mean, Josh Hart's shooting nearly 40% this year. So Fontecchio would fit right in and not be the key shooter on the lineup. He would just be a good shooter on the lineup. And I think we'd see his three-point percentage, especially in the corner, rise. The Knicks shoot a lot of corner threes. If you could shoot anywhere else from three, you could shoot in the corner. It's just a matter of getting those looks and getting good looks from the corner, something the Knicks have excelled at since Tom Thibodeau has been their head coach. So I do think this would be such a winning move for the New York Knicks, and there is a lot of ripple effects here to look at. Now, as Edwards mentioned, giving up Cameron Payne here will be tough as he's shooting the three-point shot well. He brings a different energy to the game when he's in, and he's loved in the locker room. But New York has really no other choice but to trade him and Achua to get above Fontecchio's $7.6 million salary. New York would also shed close to $400,000 by making this trade, meaning you make one more trade out of the Knicks. You trade Jericho Sims away for a second-round pick, and boom, you have money to sign TJ Warren or another veteran who's been in the NBA for over 10 years, meaning Leon Rose can get it done, which is something we know he wants to do. It will help expand the roster. I know it would still be 14 guys, but it will help expand the roster because you cut this off. You could bring in guys. Obviously, once that March deadline hits, you could bring in someone else. The Knicks would be able to figure this out. It would be helpful. You could always use Matt Ryan and bring him back up as depth. The Knicks they'd have more flexibility if they made this trade on top of having a good bench scorer who you can use. The Knicks need more shooting off their bench. Not shooting in particular, they just need scoring off their bench, especially a guy who could sub in for Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, and Fontecchio can do that. He's not a guard. He's a wing, and the Knicks need more wings backing people up. It's why Mikal, OG, and Josh Hart play so many minutes, because the Knicks don't have any backup wings or forwards, really. The only backup forward that they kind of have is Achua, and he's playing center for them. So it's really this situation of how many guys can Tibbs really play? I understand. I wish he'd just play Pacome Dadier anyway and bite the bullet right now. And Pacome has shown that he could add a valuable 10 minutes to the game. But if they really, really don't want to do that so they don't, mess with his development, or the way that they want to develop him, I should say, then I do think trading for a guy like Fontecchio makes a ton of sense for the New York Knicks. Meanwhile, they also get to move forwards with Tyler Kolek. Now, Cameron Payne has been good for the Knicks, so losing him would be unfortunate. I mean, he puts up 7 points per game, 1.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists in fairly limited minutes while shooting 42% from the field and 40% from three, shooting 55% on corner threes. Obviously, he's not shooting a ton of them, but it is still cool to see. The man's just a great shooter from everywhere. He's a great player. However, as mentioned, this would open the door for Kolek. As Edwards says here, the ripple effect in this scenario would be that Thibodeau would have to rely more on rookie guard Tyler Kolek to fill the backup backcourt minutes and in the front court unless Mitchell Robinson returns close to full health sooner rather than later. He'd have to lean on Jericho Sims or Ariel Hukporti more too. Now, Jericho Sims not playing at all makes me think that Sims is going to get traded soon. He doesn't play in garbage time. Hukporti does now, at least over these last 2 games. So I do think what we'd be seeing is Jericho Sims getting moved as well, where the Knicks would then have to rely on Mitch coming back or getting a big man somehow, some way. Maybe that's what you do with that money. You sign some big man. You could do that. You could rely on Hukporti for a bit. The guy looks very good. He's a little raw, obviously, but he still looks like a very solid player. I think he'd help the Knicks out a ton. I also think Tyler Kolek is ready to go in the NBA. I think he'd be really good next to Deuce because it lets Deuce spot up more. And Kolek is such a great passer that if you get Deuce to spot up, he's going to hit those shots. Deuce is an awesome spot-up shooter. I think it gives Deuce more room to score more fluidly. Also, Kolek would be able to set up Fontecchio well. I think this bench would be better. I think the Knicks would get their bench better through this trade. I think it's a great trade proposal by Edwards. I think every team wins in this trade. And Tyler Kolek needs more minutes. I mean, we're seeing in limited minutes, he's putting up 2.2 points per game. He's shooting 38% from both the field and from three-point. He's doing well. He's a good player. It's just he doesn't get minutes right now, and he will. That'll change. He's a rookie. He's got to get it done and do his thing that Tom Thibodeau likes, which is basically ride the bench for a bit. But looking here, his G League stats are awesome. He's putting up 22.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, and 8.5 assists. The man is NBA ready. It's just a matter of finding the space for him to play while the Knicks have more veteran guards. You trade away Cameron Payne. You have this wide opening for a left-handed point guard. Who's a left-handed point guard? Tyler Kolek. It makes perfect sense to me. I think everybody wins here. I think the New York Knicks become more of a contender this season than they already are. I love this trade. I think it's perfect. I want to know what you guys think, though. Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, and go Knicks.